There was a line in Deadpool and Wolverine that I kept thinking about this week when I was looking at all these interviews. It's from the scene that maybe is allegedly a dig at that director who was weird to Blake Lively. And Nicepool says the line,
"It costs nothing to be kind."
And Wolverine says,
"Shutting the fuck up is also free."
People trying to sell Marvel stuff. Just shut the fuck up. What is going on this week? I cannot... Every day there's a new story that's some crazy thing, and they're all different versions of like people being misinterpreted. First, people saying things where you're like, that's dumb, but whatever. First, people saying things where you're like, oh, that I don't like that at all. So let's start at that first side of people where I'm like, if you actually listen to what they said, I think it's actually pretty fair. Anthony Mackie is getting in trouble today for a very predictable thing. And like, listen, for people that are not in America now, it's a weird time to be an American. We just had an election, which is never great. Even if the best guy, your favorite guy, wins, still weird. But then, and this is just me editorializing, America's worst guy is president again. So like, everybody's feeling a little weird. And he's like letting out all the people that beat up the cops. Again, not want to get political. Well, no, I don't give a shit about being political. So whatever, political, it's fine. But anyway, for being an American, it's weird. The idea of a Captain America movie where like Captain America fights the president is already also kind of weird, and like in a good way. I like that, and I think that is an interesting, setup for a movie like that. But what Anthony Mackie said while promoting this, to me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations. It's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity, someone who is trustworthy and dependable. Now, a lot of people very predictably heard this and said, oh man, this brand new Captain America 2, who is a little different from the old Captain America in ways that, these people don't even notice really, but he said that he hates America. Isn't that weird, right? And I do think when you actually read what he said, like, he's just basically saying, Captain America, the idea of this character is more than America. He is not just the guy who defends America. He is a good man who stands up against the wrong person. And like, I think that's a big part of this movie, because like in this movie, for whatever reason, he's gonna have to fight the president. And that's something that like probably the president is gonna be like, Captain America, you can't fight me. And if Captain America just represented America, he would be forced to go, oh, you know what? Okay, sir, you go, pick up New Jersey and throw it into the ocean or whatever you want to do. But like, it's the same way that we have this problem, and we do have this argument all the time about whether Superman should be truth, justice, and the American way, or truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And I think, personally, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow is just more interesting. I like the idea that a better tomorrow is the American way, or just the idea that truth and justice are the American way. But like, that is not implicit in that statement. Either way, I see what Anthony Mackie was saying. And I can see in America today feeling a little weird about being Captain America in a Captain America movie at a time where America is doing a lot of weird stuff. I don't even know politically where Anthony Mackie falls on things, but I would imagine, it's complicated. But he was forced to come out today and say, let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to. So that's true. And I think from a Disney money standpoint, that makes a lot of sense, is that they would want the idea of Captain America to not be something that only Americans care about. I'm sure there's a way that Anthony Mackie could have said what he said that wouldn't have gotten him in as much trouble. But also, frankly, I think it's cool that he said something kind of off the cuff. And if you get into the words, like just the sentiment of what he said, that feels very in line with what Captain America in the comics would say. What Steve Rogers would say is like, America just as a word doesn't mean anything to Captain America. What matters is doing the right thing and being a good person and stuff. However, I'm sure Anthony Mackie this week probably wishes he had not said that, because it probably caused him a lot of trouble. Then we got my boy Hudson Thames. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce that, but I know that that's Two Rivers. That's how a lot of people have been talking about him. Went and did an interview, I think on Collider. This guy is doing the new Spider-Man. By the way, I'm going to say kid, he's like 30, but he's the voice of Spider-Man in the very good, for the 2 episodes that I've seen, My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man cartoon. So he's doing the voice of Spider-Man. He's going out promoting the Spider-Man show. Someone asked him, I guess, what were you worried about And he says, and I will quote it here because this is important, "I thought it was awesome. I mean, my biggest fear was that it was going to be annoying and woke, and it wasn't. And I was like, yeah, this is great. It's so well written. I'm the oldest of 5 boys, so I feel like I kind of know what's happening in their lives and in high school, and it felt like it was doing that justice." Now, first of all, Hudson Thames, shutting the fuck up is free. That is, you could have not said that. First of all, it's a crazy way to answer that question. Because, for 2 reasons. One, that can't be your biggest fear, right? Your biggest fear was that the writing was going to be bad? Like, the answer to that question that every Spider-Man should say, from here to eternity, and you would always expect them to say, and what should be genuinely what they are worried about, is I wanted my Spider-Man to feel fresh while also feeling like Spider-Man. I wanted to add something new to the character, and I wanted to make it a character that did not feel so unlike Spider-Man that fans didn't like it. Like, that is what's important. But second, the really crazy thing, the idea that this show is not woke is wild. And this is why woke just doesn't work anymore as a word for anyone to use. And when someone uses it, especially like in a negative way, like that is so woke, I'm like, well, you don't have anything to say. Like, there's nothing there, because that's not a criticism, because that's what someone says about a show like this when the show is incredibly woke, when it has a multiracial cast, and it is going to be about class and racial issues if, you know, certain things that are being set up in episodes 1 and 2 are going to pay off the way you would expect. And they have race-swapped certain very important characters, and they have a lesbian character, and that's just so woke. It couldn't be more woke. And that is good. Woke is good, especially with Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man. He's supposed to be like a kid on the street today in New York City, usually in Queens or whatever, but like Marvel has always been the world outside your window. So for a show like the Spider-Man show to both be a good representation of this character that has existed since the 60s, who's been around forever, and also be reflective of the world outside of our window, it would naturally have to be kind of woke, because they would have to make changes, have to be progressive in certain ways, they'd have to challenge the status quo, something that Spider-Man's usually pretty good at. And Spider-Man has problems, like he's poor. This is a character who has a newspaper editor who hates him and is constantly slandering him and is like getting, hated on by a media outlet that when they make the movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that outlet is portrayed like InfoWars. So like, how much more woke can you get? Like, I get it, it's not the X-Men. It's not exactly a social justice thing. And I think it's insane when people say that the X-Men should be woke either, but whatever. Like, obviously those people have no idea what they're talking about. But like, my God, it seems like what he thinks woke would mean would be, and something that I think you could criticize. If he had not used the word woke, it seems like what he was trying to say. And I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Also, I don't think people should cancel the show or something. Like, it's just one thing that he said, and it's not a terrible thing. It's just the thing that feels like, having just watched this show, like just finished the first 2 episodes, feels so out of touch with what the show is that it's like kind of baffling. I think what he meant to say in this moment is, I wanted it to feel authentic, because that's what he says after that. It's like, I got brothers and they're in high school now and I know how they talk and it sounds like them. And that is something that I think is important about a Spider-Man show. And like, I don't know if it's like a woke thing, but I think there have been different, takes on superheroes that are kids that have been written in ways that are just feel like they're written by adults writing kids. And I don't think that this version of Spider-Man is not that at all, but I do think that it feels at least as relatable as you would want. And this is coming from someone, who's in his 30s. So like, I don't know what freshman year high school Spider-Man should sound like today. Probably be a lot of words I wouldn't even know. But an authentic version of Spider-Man is good. And I do think people like the Critical Drinker and jabronis on the internet, YouTubers and stuff, will call out what they consider bad dialogue. And I think in many instances, sometimes dialogue just isn't good. It's not natural. It just feels stilted. Maybe it's delivered weird, or it doesn't feel like it comes from the voice of the character. They will label that as woke because they just don't like it. And if the character is progressive, that's a problem that came up a lot with She-Hulk. This character was a woman. She was talking about things that a woman would like be worried about, and maybe they didn't like the writing, and it was like, well, the woke is the problem. The problem is that it's woke, and it's just nonsense. It's honestly one of those things like I'm glad people say, because when someone says it, when someone complains about something being woke, I could just go, oh, okay, I don't have to take you seriously. Like, this is just, you don't have things to say, because if you did, you would say what those things were. Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic because I don't think that this guy is bad. I mean, to be fair, he could be. I don't know. But just based off of that, it's like he probably just shouldn't have said anything. He should have shut the fuck up. Then you got the real problem. And like the Spider-Man kid, who cares? He's the voice actor. His voice acting in Spider-Man is fine. His voice acting doesn't sound like someone who thinks it's too woke or whatever. Like, I don't know what happened in the Daredevil office if there's like a gas leak or something. They just keep doing interviews that are saying things that are very weird. So for instance, this is Dario Scardapane, and he's saying, this is a quote, "There is more fun in the moments with these characters and a lot less navel-gazing than before. The earlier show, at its best, was fantastic. At its worst, it was two characters in a room talking about what a hero is. I felt that had been done. I'm not taking swipes. I just didn't want to hear characters grousing about their lot in life. I wanted to see them doing things." Now, like, okay, I would understand this criticism if you were talking about Iron Fist or something. If you're talking about a show that didn't have a lot of action and felt like it was using courtroom drama or weird family dynamics that didn't really mean anything as a way to hide that they just didn't have good action sequences or whatever. What we loved about Daredevil, what I loved about Daredevil, was the balance. It had really fantastic action sequences, and also it had characters navel gazing. Like, that's a good way to describe it, because that's who Matt is. He's racked with Catholic guilt. That's what's interesting about this guy, is he just cannot get over it. And I think it seems like, based off of like the idea that they're going from some of the things in the Chip Zdarsky run that's kind of recent, there's plenty of that to be done. Like, there's plenty of navel gazing. And I know what navel gazing is, like, when you're talking about it, well, the way he's talking about it is just like things aren't getting done. You're just talking for the sake of talking. But I do think it's a crazy thing to criticize and something to call out at the old show, when a lot of people would argue that the best thing that happened in all of that show is that scene where Daredevil and Punisher argued on the rooftop about who's the hero or not. Like, there have been so many times where two characters have sat down and just talked about being a superhero or whatever that have made Daredevil so good. Like Matt and Fisk, Matt and Foggy, Matt and Punisher, Matt and Elektra. That's what we like about the show. There's other stuff we like about it, obviously, but like the idea that you have to come out and say that feels so strange. It'd be like if they made an X-Men thing and they said, like, you know what, this new one, it's gonna be all action, and we're not gonna have characters just sitting in a room playing chess talking about civil rights. We're getting rid of that stuff. And you're like, wait, that's what it is though. That's the whole thing. Now, I know these people know what they're doing, and I thought the trailers and everything we've seen so far from this season of Daredevil looks great. But this, like, legitimately has me worried that maybe something's wrong. I will say too, other things this guy said in this interview, really weird. I really feel that Netflix's Daredevil, which I know in my blood, was more noir. And this show is more New York crime story. It has elements of Sopranos and The King of New York. There's a feeling for those classic 90s crime tales. Noir and New York crime story. At least, I don't know what he's talking about here. I don't know how they're different besides the idea that, like, organized crime is a big part of it. That's always a big part of noir too. Or at least, like, a organized criminal underworld is very frequently a part of, like, film noir. And I don't know, Daredevil's pretty noir. The trailer that they released looks pretty noir, just in terms of the visual stuff. And I don't know, that New York crime story, it's not like they said, oh, we're not doing this is a comedy this time, which you could totally do. A Daredevil season that's a comedy would be fun, but that's not what they said. But then the other one that really I thought was very strange, this is something that he said that I don't know. Said, it's really strange. You work in a vacuum and then something else comes out and you go, oh wow. I would say in many ways the Penguin is our direct competition. However, we're even more grounded, even less stylized, even more rooted in the here and now. I love Penguin. We're a little faster, meaner, cleaner in our storytelling. What? What does that mean? First of all, Penguin's great. Like, Penguin's borderline perfect. Everybody I know loved that show. So to compare yourself to Penguin, I get that as an instinct. And there is an interview, like a version of this, where he says, like, you know, they've really raised the bar. Daredevil was a big dog. Now we get shows like Penguin. So, you know, we got to really, you know, make a great show. And realizing that, like, our show and their show share themes, people are going to compare them. I want people to think this is something different. That's totally cool. You can put that in an article and it would sound great. But like, okay, this is Daredevil we're talking about, right? It's even more grounded, even less stylized, and even more rooted in the here and now. Even more rooted in the here and now, I don't even buy. But out of the three of them, that's the one that between these two shows, I could see a version of a Daredevil show where it is really rooted in the here and now. What it seems like he's saying is that it is rooted in the here and now because Wilson Fisk is the mayor. And the political angle, what if the bad guy was the politician? Obviously, you know, we get to see how that could be rooted in the here and now. It's not like the Batman universe that the Penguin takes place in is not incredibly rooted in the here and now. It's incredibly contemporary, like especially characters like Victor and even Oz. Pretty much everybody in that show could have just been ripped out of another regular mob show taking place in our universe. Like if Sopranos was still on the air, they could all just be Sopranos characters. So what could that mean? What could rooted in the here and now mean more than that? Then you have more grounded. Now this I think is just flat out wrong, right? Like it shouldn't be. This is a man who has a whip thingy that he uses and like whips guys with and fights them. There's another guy that he's gonna fight at some point who has perfect aim and can kill you with like a paperclip or whatever. There are just multiple guys running around on the show with superhero outfits. The Batman only had one, and he wasn't in the Penguin show. There were no superheroes in that show. It was just a show about crime bosses that did feature an explosion and some murders that were pretty, you know, unbelievable in terms of like if they happened in the real world, you'd be like, wow, interesting, but not like, oh my god, that could never happen. Whereas like, I don't know, man, Matt has a superhuman hearing thing. I don't know, how's just yours more grounded? Kingpin got shot in the head 2 shows ago in his like eye, and now he seems to just be better. And I think that's the point. And what I think we're getting at here is like, we don't want it to be more grounded. I don't think we need it to be like She-Hulk, where it's more of like a cartoon and he's doing backflips and stuff, even though I would say that is very true to Daredevil. But like, why is that a selling point, and why are you comparing it to Penguin? Part of me wonders, did this guy not see Penguin? Has he just kind of heard of it and he saw the Batman and he's like, our thing is more grounded than the Batman movie, which I still don't think it is, but like, you know, there's a case to be made that Batman and Daredevil are on similar levels, even though like Daredevil has superpowers, but whatever. But like, then forget about those other two, less stylized. Why is that a selling point? First of all, the trailer you showed seemed quite stylized. Daredevil is a very stylized character. Like, I think maybe when we're talking about the noir, that's what he means, is this is shot less like noir in season 1 with all the, you know, moody lighting and stuff. But like, I don't know, man, don't advertise that. Don't tell us that, because that was cool. We like that. Like, and I'm not saying it has to be exactly like what we liked, but it's just like, this is something you don't have to say. You can just say, Penguin came out very similar to our show, in some ways, different in other ways. Less stylized. Like, when has that been bad? Was that something he saw the Penguin and went, it's too stylized for my taste? Penguin's not that stylized. Daredevil season 1 was pretty stylized, but like, I don't know, man, it's not fucking Watchmen or something. I really don't know. And I want to give these guys the benefit of the doubt, because again, the trailer looks good. I don't understand why they said this instead of just shutting the fuck up and saying nothing. Like, this really makes me appreciate celebrities that like will talk. I think it's great. And I've seen a lot of interviews with the week with Ben Stiller and Adam Scott where they've talked very candidly about working on Severance and like what they were thinking when they were working on it. But like, I appreciate how people like Lady Gaga this week will go out and people say, what do you think about Joker? Joker 2 bombed. And she'll be like, yeah, it wasn't for everybody. You know, not everything you do is perfect, and you move on and stuff. Like, there is just a level of media training, like professionalism, that I think we need more of across the board here. And like, I'm sure Marvel has had problems like this before, but it just feels like they're all happening at the same time for no reason. There's just a lot of unforced errors that are taking a lot of the wind out of the sails for me. Like, I am starting to see the cracks, seeing how maybe the Daredevil show, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to be like, I wish it had a little bit more stylization. I wish it was a little less grounded. And maybe I wouldn't have thought that if the guy didn't go, we made it less stylized for you. Is that good? It's less like Penguin, that show that everyone loved. I don't know. Anyway, Marvel, all this is to say, Spider-Man show is very good. Really enjoying Marvel Rivals. I'm curious about Captain America, and Daredevil I'm like a teeny tiny bit worried about. And if that was the goal, then hey, you nailed it. But if that's not the goal, then I don't know. Probably shouldn't do it. But you know what you should do? Check out this video sponsor, Nebula. If you've never heard of it before, Nebula is a subscription streaming service that me and a bunch of other YouTubers, a lot of people you're probably already watching, created because we wanted to have more control over our videos, we didn't want to have to cater to the algorithm, and we wanted to offer a better experience to you guys so you can watch all of my videos. They're all early. Some of them are like a full month early, some of them are like a day early, but every video goes up first on Nebula, and that is Nando V Movies, and that is the Nando Cut, both of my channels, and they're completely ad-free, so there's no ads in the middle, and there's no sponsor read at the end. And in 2025, we have so much cool stuff that we are working on. One thing that I am very excited about is a show called Abolish Everything. This is a live show that happens in the city where people come in and bring something that they hate, and they give a short presentation on why it should be abolished. Then a panel of experts goes in and questions them. And I'm excited for Abolish Everything because, like Nebula, we have a reputation for being very smart. We have a lot of very, very educated people who do research and make documentaries, but we also have a lot of really funny people, and I am excited to see that side of Nebula growing. And I always say, a year of Nebula is a steal at $5 a month or $60 a year. But if you use the code TheNandoCut at checkout, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. It's a great deal. Check it out. Go to go.nebula.tv/TheNandoCut. Use the code TheNandoCut at checkout. I guarantee you'll find something cool you're going to like. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.